So some words about Tamas. He's the product manager of the .NET, JChem for Excel, and SharePoint development. And before ChemAxon, he'd been working for the MDL for several years.
I have to talk like this to make it work. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Actually, Luke's presentation was supposed to raise the interest in the SharePoint technologies in the pharmaceutical industry. But unfortunately, I have to do this myself, but I will try to do my best. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you a brief overview what we have done in the last half or 1 year with SharePoint in ChemAxon. And of course, after this, we will have a discussion, and your feedback would be very welcome for the future plans for ChemAxon, so how we should continue with this development. So just a quick introduction what we are trying to accomplish with this. So basically, our initial goal was to integrate Marvin and JChem functionality somehow in SharePoint. And what are we using? What technologies are we using? It's basically a .NET-based API. John gave you a quick introduction about what are the possibilities of accessing JChem. So .NET is also available, and we are actually using that. And the other one is Marvin Applet, which is a web-based technology, so it comes quite handy when using SharePoint. And basically, in what areas are we trying to put this functionality in? These are the main features of SharePoint. So basically, lists, collaboration features. It is also possible to do custom ASP.NET-based web parts, search, which is also a quite important area, web services, and also later on, we will probably look at the possibilities what to do with the workflow engine built in SharePoint. So if I have to think about one sentence how to summarize this, so how a company could use SharePoint, or how a research company could use SharePoint, is this: that it should be possible to access and manage all research-related data from a single place. And I think SharePoint actually it quite satisfies this need. So the last 2 points about maybe of the product names, what we are going to have in the SharePoint area. So one of them, so the first one is JChem for SharePoint. It's quite intuitive name, like JChem for Excel. So this will be about the general SharePoint integration, the user interface, how to include structures and chemical functionality in the SharePoint web-based and also in the web services-based interface. The second product will be, it's a JChem search for SharePoint, and it will be built upon the infrastructure what SharePoint offers of indexing, crawling, and searching text, what SharePoint offers enterprise-wide. And what we are trying to accomplish, that we will add the capability of searching structures in various places, but I will talk about that soon. So basically, these are the features what we have now. So far, we only worked on the JChem for SharePoint side. So now we are able to handle and filter structures inside SharePoint lists. It is possible to calculate structure-based predictions in lists. It is also possible to handle structures in blogs, wiki, and discussion board. Basically, these three are the collaboration features available in SharePoint. And soon, it will be also possible to import and export and modify also lists using a desktop tool using SharePoint's web services. So our first feature, basically, it's a so-called custom field inside SharePoint. In SharePoint, you can think about lists as if they were a table inside a database. So it is possible to define lists. You can add custom or built-in columns to lists. So it is very easy even for a user to create a list in a few minutes and start adding records and also structures. So what we did here is basically we developed the custom field type. With this field type, it is possible to render structures in multiple formats stored inside SharePoint lists. It is also possible to specify various display settings which are familiar from Marvin, and also image size and some various other advanced settings. And of course, it is also possible to edit structures. So you can add the structure using the familiar Marvin Sketch Applet. Our second feature, what we built, is the ChemAxon Chemical Terms Field. And basically, with the help of this field, it is possible to calculate structural property predictions using chemical terms. It is quite similar what you can see in instant JChem. So you enter this chemical terms expression, and it calculates the corresponding value for the structure. And it's quite similar because SharePoint has another calculated field column type, which offers standard ways of calculating things. But here we did actually implemented our chemical terms expression engine. It is also possible to sort and filter these values when calculated. So why I'm saying this, that you could say, well, it's normal that you can sort and filter, because it is quite hard to do it in the background, because first we had a solution when it only displayed the results, but actually what we had to do, that we actually had to store the results of the calculation. So in order to SharePoint to be able to recognize it and use it for sorting and filtering. And of course, these calculations update their result based on structure edit, and also if you change the expression. I'm going to do the demonstration at the end altogether. So first I'm going to go over the presentation so I don't have to switch over. Just a few words about the collaboration features. So as I mentioned, there are 3 parts in SharePoint. There are also more, but these 3, we found it interesting to include the structure handling capabilities. So these are blogs, wiki, and discussion board. And here, basically, the main concept is that you can add and edit structures together with textual data. So you type in some text, you edit a structure, you can add multiple structures, and you can, it is even possible to resize the structures here so they won't lose their aspect. So basically, these 2 was related closely to the SharePoint list, so they were custom field types. And our next feature, basically, it's a web part. Web part, it's not a custom field. You can think about it's like a custom component put into SharePoint. So what we can do with this structure filter, so if you put some structures in your list, I'm sure you will want to be able to filter this. So with the help of this web part, it is actually possible. At the moment, it runs simple mol search, so there is no indexing or fingerprinting involved. But in the far future, or not far future, but in the future, we will look at possibilities how to solve this problem as well. So it basically supports all the JChem query features which you might be familiar from other products. At the moment, it only works for lists. But in the future, we would like to add the support for filtering, also the collaboration stuff. So for example, you have a discussion board, and you want to look up specific structures based on substructure. You will be able to do this. And as you can see, it is possible to dynamically select list and the column types you want to filter. At the end, it will look a bit different. So there's some development going on. So it will be possible to filter together structures and other properties in a list. So you will be able to filter basically on all possible fields and values. So quite important part, import-export is also coming soon. It will be possible to import from popular file formats such as SDF, MRV, SMARS, or maybe a list of UPAC names. And this import feature will be capable of creating new lists and also appending to existing lists into SharePoint. And why it is hard to do it, then I'm sure Tim knows this very well, that basically in SD files you do not have a typed information, so you have to recognize these types runtime and create the specific SharePoint field types based on this. At first, we will do it automatically, but later we will have also customizable options, so you can see what types actually are code recognized, and later on you can fine-tune this. And of course, an easier one, we will also add the export capability. So in this way, you create an SD file from an existing SharePoint list, which is much easier than importing. We will also have a non-web-based application or tool or component for SharePoint. Basically, it is a desktop editor for SharePoint content. At the moment, it only supports lists. It is developed in .NET, and it is using the SharePoint Web Services. So it is possible to do almost all operations inside SharePoint externally, so you do not have to use the web-based features. So with the help of SharePoint Web Services, it is actually possible to connect external applications. It is possible to exchange data with your custom applications and SharePoint. It is actually based on the not yet released ChemAxon.NET components. Just a few words about this. So basically, it will support the Marvin.NET editor, and it will also have a .NET data grid view. And with this data grid view, you can visualize and edit structures and save it back to SharePoint. So I think this tool will be quite helpful for batch import and export into SharePoint. And maybe there will be some researchers who require the faster editing of data and also faster way of data input inside SharePoint. So maybe this small tool could be also later on extended into an application. So that was about a quick overview about, or not basic, but the general features of SharePoint. So let's move over to the next area, which is about the search technologies. So as I mentioned, SharePoint itself is capable of crawling and indexing text files. It is also possible to do this with Microsoft Office file formats. You can also index internet or intranet site. And you can also add some custom places, maybe an email folder, what you would like to index. And what we are trying to do here, or part of it here, is we added the possibility to crawl and index structures apart or together with text information. So where it is possible to do this, it is actually possible to index and search SharePoint sites. So basically, if you have these blogs, wikis, and whatever, it will be possible to find structures there. It is possible to search and crawl the file system. So if you have network shares and places like that. It is also possible, as I mentioned, internal and external websites, databases, or email system. So what will be possible to recognize as structures with using JChem search? So it will be possible to recognize if you have, for example, structured files scattered around the network share, such as mol, or if it contains multiple structures, an SDF. It will be possible to extract structures based from textual information. So, for example, if a Word document contains a UPAC name, a SMI string, INCHI string, or a web page contains this similar information. The third one, which is quite important, that it will be also possible to configure words and synonyms in a textual way. And just let me give you an example. I'm sure most bigger pharmaceuticals or even smaller ones have corporate IDs. So for example, if you make a PowerPoint presentation and you put a corporate ID without any structural information, and you save it somewhere in a network location, it will be possible actually to, if the search indexing finds this document, it will try to find for this corporate ID a corresponding structure, and if it finds one in your corporate database, that it will make the appropriate index. So if you would like to search on structures for specific documents, you issue a substructure search, and basically this PowerPoint document will be returned to you as a result. And we also had some ideas and also requests what else to index. I'm sure most of you have several types of OLE objects inside Microsoft Documents, whether it be Marvin OLE objects or maybe OLE objects from other vendors. They were also thinking about later on improving and working on the Excel integration capability of SharePoint. So we were thinking about indexing JChem for Excel workbooks, what you upload into a SharePoint server. And we also had several requests to recognize and index structures from images. And one more important thing to mention, that all this SharePoint indexing is security aware if you use Microsoft environment or Active Directory, but I think it is possible also to configure for other authentication as well. So what it means that if a certain employee doesn't have right for a certain document, but actually the SharePoint indexing indexes this content and stores the data, but in the meantime, it also stores the security information together with this keyword and structure. So if he or she doesn't have right to see this, it won't be displayed as a result of a search. So I think it's a quite important feature. So what else we will do in this area? So apart from the background or back office infrastructure of a search, of course, we will need to implement a custom search interface. So in this interface, it will be possible to search for structures together with any keywords what the document contains or any other metadata information, for example, who did this document, when it was last modified, and so on. It will support all the full JChem query features, so substructure, similarity, and maybe calculated structural properties and other special search types such as Marcus or polymer search. This search will also have a web service interface, as most of the features have inside SharePoint. So if you do not want to use the web-based interface, but you have a custom application, it will be possible to integrate this search capability inside your application as well. The third, quite an important point, is hit ranking and relevance. So if you implement all this search infrastructure in a bigger environment, I'm sure, and if you look for a structure, I'm sure you will get many thousands of hits. So it will be quite important to find out a way that how to rank and make relevance of this search. Otherwise, all this mass amount of information won't be too useful. So what we thought what we could have in this area is like structure similarity. So if you issue a substructure search, or if you search for structural properties, how far the value of the properties from the queried value. Maybe we can also take into account the source of extraction, so where it found, for example, a UPAC name in a document. But if it's in the document title or the file name, it would get a high score. If it's found only in the body of the document, it would get a lower score. Actually, SharePoint has got several features supporting this, but some of you might have heard that the new SharePoint server will have also a different option for searching. It is called a fast search engine. So what I read that it will be even more configurable or extendable its ranking and relevance engine. So just a few words about the planned features and enhancements, what we are trying to do. We'll, of course, what I showed you in the beginning, our features are currently working inside SharePoint. So if you import structures or add structures to a list, it is basically they are stored in the SharePoint infrastructure as well. So actually it might be suitable for smaller companies or working groups, but I'm sure most of the companies have their structures in databases. So basically we will also implement a database search web part, where actually you can put this web part, search for your database, and maybe save the hits or the structures you are interested in the SharePoint infrastructure itself. We also plan to have some database import, export, maybe somehow automated. If you want to synchronize some parts of your database with SharePoint, it will be possible to do so. We also plan to add other chemical tools as web parts, like the standardizer, the structure checker, reactor, fragmenter, and I heard Markus enumeration would be also important. Another quite interesting area is Excel integration, because SharePoint is capable of displaying Excel workbooks in a web browser itself and do various calculations. So what we thought that we could somehow integrate this feature with JChem for Excel. So if you have a JChem for Excel workbook, you upload this workbook, and it will be possible to see the contents of the workbook together with the structures and also the custom calculations you have there. And as I mentioned, if you store these workbooks inside SharePoint, it might be also possible to search through all the workbooks for a specific structure. And it will be also quite important to look at the workflow-based possibilities inside SharePoint, maybe doing a simple registration system for illustration, or maybe doing a more complicated one, depending on the need. So basically, these were the planned features, and we are also working on the enhancements of how to improve the solutions what we have. So at the moment, as I mentioned, it is only possible to edit structures with the Marvin applet inside SharePoint. So we had some requests that we should also look at different possibilities. So we will try and implement a desktop-based structure editing inside SharePoint. At the moment, it is possible, for example, if you have a document library and you click on the Word document, it opens up Microsoft Word for you, and you can basically save back the modified document in SharePoint. So what we try to accomplish, it is the same behavior with using a desktop structure editor of your choice, but I'm sure it will be Marvin. So we will also try to improve the usability of this with enhanced client-side JavaScript and some jQuery parts, because also the next version of SharePoint is going to that direction. We're also thinking about implementing custom SharePoint web services, such as, for example, we do the image generation and some other calculations using web services. And also, Silverlight might have a quite important part in the next version of SharePoint 2010. And after this presentation, I will make the demonstration. We will also have a discussion, and it will be quite important for us to know whether we should focus on SharePoint 2007 or 2010 in the future, because unfortunately, these two are quite not the same. So Microsoft did a bigger change in technology in these two products. So it will be quite important for us to know in which direction we should go, or on which product we should focus on. OK, now I'm going to show you a demonstration, if everything goes all right. Just one more slide. We will have a demo server available on the following link. Actually, for this demo server, you will need some credentials to access, because of also from licensing, SharePoint licensing reasons. But please feel free to contact us if you want to try out the features, and we will give you all the necessary credentials. And we also plan to have deployable web parts, I think, in the third quarter. So it will be possible for you to install all these features on your own SharePoint environment. OK, let's see some quick demonstration. So basically, this is a normal default startup page of SharePoint. So what I will show you first that how easy is to create new lists where you can store structures. Here, basically, you can see all the possible stuff you can create in SharePoint. I'm going to pick custom list now. I'm going to give it a short name. I cannot really type here. Here you have the list ready. Basically, at the moment, it doesn't have any columns. It has these default title columns, what SharePoint inserts. So now I'm going to add structure type column here. Let's call it structure. And here, basically, you can see on the top the default field types you have in SharePoint. But now I'm going to select our own structure field type. And here, in the bottom, you can see all the various options you can set for this field type. For example, you can set the image size, what image format to use. And you can set what structural format to store, basically the structure string in, and all the various display settings. There are also some advanced settings but it is also possible for you to cache the molecule images. So what it does, it also stores the images apart from the structural string, so it will be much faster to display the images. And the other one, it's not important. It's mainly for development purposes at the moment. So I add my structure column, and I'm going to add two other calculated fields. So one will be the atom count. I'm going to select the ChemAxon Chemical Terms Field type. And here, I'm going to enter the chemical terms expression. We'll also add the validator for this later on. Let's add one more for UPAC name. I select the same. And I type in name if I'm correct. Oops. So I quickly added 3 columns to my list. So let's add the structure. Unfortunately, SharePoint makes this title field compulsory, so you have to fill it in. But we also worked out a solution to how to remove this and set the compulsory field to the structure. And if everything goes all right, I added my structure, and you can see all its calculated properties here. Let's quickly add another one. I can only draw these simple structures, but it's good for demonstration purposes. And it is also calculated for you. Now I'm going to show you some other features what you have built in with SharePoint lists. It is also possible to switch on versioning. So if you switch on versioning, you will see all the changes what the user's done in the certain fields. So I'm going to turn this on. Create a version every time. Okay. So I've turned on the versioning, and now I'm going to change the structure. Change it to Anthracene, and if you click the version history, you will see all the changes, who did the change and the time of change it happened. And if you select this, it is also possible to restore previous version. So as you can see, it restored the earlier version of my structure. Of course, it is also possible to delete an item. If you delete an item, it will place this into a recycle bin. So if you try to change your, or if you change your mind, you can go to the recycle bin and restore this structure. I think it was this one. And it restored your structure. Just a few more things. I'm going to quickly show you how the ChemAxon wiki works. So here is basically the sample page, what we copied from Wikipedia. So you can also edit structures here, but if you click, there is also another article. So if you want to edit this, you can select the structure. And here you can see we inserted the edit structure button. So if you select it, you can edit the structure here. It is also possible to resize. So if you resize here, it will automatically regenerate the image, so it won't lose the aspect. And the screen resolution is pretty strange. So it made basically the structure smaller. Basically, the discussion board and the blog are quite similar to a wiki, so I'm not going to show you that. What I'm going to show is just a quick example how the structure filter works. So here, basically, I have a first 100 structures from an NCI database. It has also some 2 calculated columns, the log.pa and the UPAC name. So I'm going to select a list here for the calculation. I'm going to draw up a simple structure. And if you click Apply Filter, after a certain period of time, it will calculate. It is also quite a slow notebook. And using a virtual machine, so more powerful hardware, it will run much faster, but actually it finished with the search. And you can also clear the filter. And of course, because MolSearch supports Marcus search as well, so it is also possible to search Marcus structures here. Here basically we have a list of Marcus structures. Here you can also see calculated columns which display the enumeration count for this Marcus structure. I think that's all, and we will have this discussion after the presentation. So if you have more questions or you want to know some technical details, then please free to ask. Or we might even have Luke's presentation. I don't know about the technical possibilities.
Okay, thanks very much, Tamas. I think we will have Luke.
Thank you.